Samsharadāvānalaya-loka Pranayakādina Khanakhannatyam Praptasya Kallangunānavasya Bandhe Gurachītanarabindam Nikunjajunaratikeli siddhai Nikunjajunaratikeli siddhai Jajali vidyuktirapekshaniya Nikunjajunaratikeli siddhai Jajali vidyuktirapekshaniya Tatrātidākṣādati ballavāśyam Vande Gurasi Charanarabindam Vande Gurasi Charanarabindam Vande Gurasi Charanarabindam Vande Gurasi Charanarabindam Samsharadāvānalaya-loka Pranayakādina Khanakhannatyam Praptasya Kallangunānavasya Bandhe Gurachītanarabindam Bandhe Gurachītanarabindam Bandhe Gurachītanarabindam Sakshādharitena samasta shastrayī Ruttatha bhavata eva sadabhi Sakshādharitena samasta shastrayī Ruttatha bhavata eva sadabhi Prabhu priya eva tasya Vande Gurasi Charanarabindam To Prabhu priya eva tasya Vande Gurasi Charanarabindam Samsharadāvānalaya-loka Pranayakādina Khanakhannatyam Praptasya Kallangunānavasya Bandhe Gurasi Charanarabindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And welcome everybody globally to our Thursday night reading and discussion of Chaitanya Charitamrita, the postgraduate study of religion. Yes. So the Bhagavad Gita is the first stage. Then the graduate stage is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the postgraduate stage of religion is Chaitanya Charitamrita, the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who introduced the Golden Age. And I see that our friend Donald Trump stole that name from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's calling it the Golden Age. Well, you can have it. That's okay. But you need to follow the principles of Vaishnavism to really introduce the Golden Age to the mass of people. And that begins with the chanting of Hare Krishna and the following of the four regulated principles: no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, and no illicit sex. So you've got a long way to go, Mr. Trump. But it's interesting to note, and we brought it up earlier, that he did render service directly to Srila Prabhupada in 1976. And he did give the use of the land in New York for the building of the Rath Yatra carts. And the devotees brought him. Nityānanda was very enthusiastic to distribute prasadam. And the devotees arranged for prasadam to be delivered to him. And they got a message back from his secretary that he enjoyed the prasadam very much. So devotional service is inexhaustible. It means that once you chant, you always get the benefit. You never lose it. And if you carry on in your life and continue to serve, then you'll continue to make advancement. And it was interesting to note Yashodanandana Prabhu, who mentioned to me that how auspicious is the word Tulsi. When people repeat the word Tulsi, how much benefit and blessing they get from it. And it's interesting to note that today, Tulsi Gabbard was on the review with the Senate to become the Secretary of Intelligence, which is a very high post in the American government. And you know, Yashodanandana Prabhu, it brought me to the realization of how unfortunate the ISKCON movement has treated its membership. It's really terrible. In fact, if you think about it, you know, we have so many different God brothers who had served Prabhupada over the years. And when they didn't agree with the principles of the new guruship appointments by the GBC, they kicked everybody out. And they really consciously did it. Now, where is it that Prabhupada said you should kick out his disciples from his organization? This is a great sin. And the fact of the matter is that they did it unjustly because we were simply dissenting. We were simply bringing up points that this guru appointment system that they created wasn't authorized by Srila Prabhupada at all. They concocted it for personal ambition. And Ram Raghava, think about it like this. Today, I watched the review by the Senate of Tulsi, and they grilled her for hours. This, that, to make sure she understood her role in that office in the government. Now, do they do that in ISKCON? Did they seriously review people? Have them tested, strictly tested to determine that they are authorized to be guru? Do they understand the philosophy of Prabhupada? Have they ever been subject to checks and balances? Nityānanda? No. They're not subjected. In fact, they carry on and then they waver. They go off in a tangent and nobody comes and checks them. Nobody. What kind of organization is that has no checks and balances, no reviews, no scrutiny? And the role of these people is higher than the role of any government official in the American political world. Their bureaucracy, more significant, and there are no checks and balances. Unbelievably incompetent, ridiculous operation of an organization as important as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And then people wonder why there are people that are dissenters. Even in any franchise system. You know, in my career, I had a juice bar that we were launching, and we entered into a franchising system years ago. And the rules for a franchise system are very strict. In fact, the way a franchise system works is you have to check all of the franchisees that they're qualified first to open a franchise, and they have to follow all kinds of rules to maintain the franchise. And at the same time, these people have to be carefully taken care of so there's no franchisee revolt. Have you ever heard of that? Nityānanda, are you aware of that? Franchisee revolt. If you read the books on franchising, it's very important that the master franchisor, they guard against franchisee revolt. One time here in Canada, there's a franchise system, a pizza franchise system up here in Canada called Pizza Pizza. I actually sold the owner a BMW when I worked in cars for a few years. And the fact of the matter is, they had a franchisee revolt. And what did they do? They immediately went into action and solved the revolt. So there wouldn't be, the whole franchise system would not collapse, because franchisee revolt will destroy a franchise system. And the Krishna consciousness movement was a franchise in a sense. Prabhupada started in 65, 66, in 1966. And in fact, he used the same articles of incorporation in Montreal, the same. And then Montreal, I was the legal affairs manager for the society here. The society operated under one incorporation, ISKCON Montreal, and then Vancouver, Toronto, and Ottawa all ran under that franchise, that one corporation. Eventually, we changed it, so because of the variety of lawsuits that came forward, and we didn't want if you sued the head office and all the branches were connected to it, you could crash the whole organization by one lawsuit. So we changed it, but it was basically a franchise system. And it was important that all of us cooperated, but in the ISKCON movement, when temple presidents didn't agree with the GBC, who were not really supposed to take these roles of leadership in individual centers, but they were supposed to simply supervise and assist these people, they kicked everybody out. They either discouraged them or destroyed them. Nityānanda was a perfect example. He shut down Buffalo, he shut down Pittsburgh. He stole everybody he could from wherever he could. He stole our Murti from the Prabhupada, of Srila Prabhupada in the Toronto temple. He stole it in the middle of the night. These people were no joke. They killed Sulochan. They murdered him. And Radhanath is still responsible for that murder. We have proof from one of our godbrothers who is working with us, who worked in police enforcement, was at the case when it was tried, and the FBI discovered that the fingerprints on the money given to Tirtha contained the prints of Radhanath. Yes, and you can ask Dharmatma the same thing. I know Dharmatma quite well. There's no statute of limitations on conspiracy to commit murder. So by the way, he's still vulnerable, but still, he ran away, he's hiding in India, and this goes on. There are no checks and balances. Do you think, you saw when they tried to appoint that minister of defense, if some of you Americans watched it, did you see the scrutiny they put him through for his drinking and for his womanizing? And somehow or other, he got appointed by the vote from J.D. Vance. Do they do that with ISKCON in the appointment of gurus? No. Do they check it? Right now, we're going to talk about this because it's current. Recently, in a post yesterday on Facebook, I saw that there was somebody speaking, I think it was Kanta, giving some information about Bhakti Marg in Trinidad. And he's promoting the gay position of devotees in the movement. And he's a guru. And someone testified that he came on to another man on a gay idea. Can you believe it? No checks and balances, no scrutiny, and yet they carry on without any discipline. A spiritual life is a disciplined way to live and practice Krishna consciousness. And the people that put themselves in this role of Diksha Guru are at the highest level in spiritual practice. And if they break these rules, if they're not reviewed by others and reviewed by people like Nilesh, like Ram Raghava, like Rupa Goswami, like Krishna Katha, Dharma Bhavana, Yashodam, if you're not ready to be subjected to review, what is wrong with you? Are you hiding in the closet? Yes, you are. We're not going to tolerate it. We're going to carry on with this business. They think they woke up. They've just woke up the sleeping giant, which is us. We are coming. And I'm going to say it, and you know it. We're not jokes. We're not jokes. We're not people that haven't done anything in life, inside and outside of ISKCON. Most of these people have never done anything except mooch money off people, and especially nowadays, they take money from the Hindus and live a fancy lifestyle. This is all bogus. So that's it for the monologue. We're going to move forward with a section I wanted to read for you from the Nectar of Devotion. So I'm reading about the transcendental relationships that we can have. There are 5 primary relationships: neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental humor, and conjugal love. So 5 in the Nectar of Devotion. And I wanted to read from the servitude section of transcendental affection. And I hope that our friend Rupa Goswami can bring it up. I did send it to him. I hope you have it. Let's see. Let's see where we are. A saintly person. not there. It's on, these books are all changed so much. In Pajavali, a devotee says, persons who are attached to speculative knowledge for self-realization, who have decided the supreme truth is beyond meditation, and who have thus become situated in the mode of goodness, let them peacefully execute their engagement. I'm sorry, I think you are at the right section. I do like that. Hold on, everybody. Let's okay, go back there. You were all right. I think it was in neutrality. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. The devotees and self-realized persons, it's in neutral love of Godhead. The devotees and self-realized persons who are engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord always maintain an ecstatic love for the Lord within their hearts. Thus they are benefited by the rays of the ecstatic moon, and they are called saintly persons. The impulse of a saintly person is to be engaged in the study of the Vedas, especially the Upanishadic portions, to always live in a place where there is no disturbance from the common people, to always think of the eternal form of Krishna, to be ready to consider and understand the absolute truth, to always be prominent in exhibiting knowledge, to see the Supreme Lord in his universal form, to associate always with learned devotees, and to discuss the conclusions of the Vedas with similarly elevated persons. All these qualifications of a saintly person serve to raise him to the status of Santa Rasa. So it's very important for the devotees to be in association with learned devotees, just like we have so many learned devotees in our group, and to discuss the conclusion of the Vedas with similarly elevated persons. So this discussion, this sadhu sangha, is very critical to making advancement in spiritual life. And we promote that in our group. Yes, we do. And we want people to understand that this type of review amongst the people in ISKCON is not promoted by them. It's actually prohibited, just like they prohibit the original books in the temples. You're not allowed to speak from them. So all kinds of mistakes are going on in the name of their elected or elected guru system. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We're going to move forward with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava by Srila Prabhupada, and then we'll have our reading and discussion with Yashodanandana Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गौ गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय, वृंदावन धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी देवी की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय। All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Narayanam namaskritya, Narayanam namaskritya, Naram chaiva narottamam, Naram chaiva narottamam, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam, Devim Saraswatim Vyasam, Tato Jayam Mudirayat, Tato Jayam Mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This program is being conducted on the basis of the original non-edited, non-interpolated, non-adulterated original version of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which was published in 1974. As we do every week, we will read a few selected verses from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita itself, from the Adi Lila, chapter 1, text 18-22, which describes the meaning and the transcendental benefit of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityānanda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityānanda, glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Itina Thakura Gaudiya ki karye chano atmasat, Itinera Charana Vandan Tire Morenat. These three deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Grantera Rambe Kari Mangala Charana, Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Tinera Smaraneoi Vigna Vinashana, Anayasihai Nijavanchita Purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Simangala Charanoi Trivida Prakar Vastunirdesha Shiravada Namaskara. The invocation involved three processes defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. We will proceed with our reading of the official text today. We are reading from Adi Lila, chapter 5, text number 75, I believe, or 74. Tandra Eka Swarupi Sri Maha Sankarshana Tamra Amsha Purusha Oi Kalati Ghanana. Tanra is Eka one, Swarupa manifestation, Sri Maha Sankarshana, the great Lord Maha Sankarshana. Tanra his, Amsha part, Purusha the Mahavishnu incarnation. I is Kalate Ghanana, counted as a Kala. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Balaram's own expansion is called Maha Sankarshana, and his fragment, the Purusha, is counted as a Kala, or a part of a plenary portion. Text 75. Yanhaki takala kahi tinha Mahavishnu, Mahapurusha vatari tenho sarvajishnu. Yanhaki, unto whom? Ta, certainly. Kala kahi, I say kala. Tinha, tinho, he. Mahavishnu, Lord Mahavishnu. Mahapurusha Avatari, the source of other Purusha incarnations. Mahavishnu Tenho, he, Sarava, all, Jishnu, pervading. Translation. I say that this Kala is Mahavishnu. He is the Mahapurusha, who is the source of the other Purushas, and who is all pervading. Text 76. Garbo Dakshiroda Shahidhane Purushanama Se Dui Yanra Amsha Vishnu Vishwadhama Garba Uda, in the ocean known as Garbodaka, within the universe. Kshira Uda Shayi, one who lies in the ocean of milk. Danhe, both of them. Purushanama, known as Purusha, Lord Vishnu. Se, those. Dui, two. Yanra Amsha, whose plenary portions. Vishnu Vishwadhama, Lord Vishnu, the abode of the total universes. Translation. Garbhodashayi and Kshirodashayi are both called Purushas. They are plenary portions of Karonodakshayi Vishnu, the first Purusha, who is the abode of all the universes. Text 77. Purport. The symptoms of the Purusha are described in Laghu Bhagavatamrita. While describing the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the author has quoted from the Vishnu Purana 6.859, where it is said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Purushottama Lord Krishna, who is always free from the contamination of the six material dualities, whose plenary expansion Mahavishnu glances over matter to create the cosmic manifestation, who expands himself in various transcendental forms, all of which are one and the same, who is the master of all living entities, who is always free and liberated from the contamination of material energy, and who, when he appears in this material world, seems one of us, although he has an eternally spiritual, blissful, transcendental form. In summarizing this statement, Rupa Goswami has concluded that the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who acts in cooperation with the material energy, is called the Purusha. Text 77. Vishnostu trini rupani purushakyani ato viduhu ekam tu mataha shrastri dvitiyam tvandasam stitam tritiyam sarvabhutastam tani gyatva vimuchyati. Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu, to certainly, trini, three, rupani, forms, purusha akyayani, celebrated as the Purusha, ata, how, viduhu, they know, ekam, one of them, to, but, mahatasrastrihi, the creator of the total material energy, dvitiyam, the second, to, but, andasamstitam, situated within the universe, tritiyam, the third, sarvabhutastam, within the hearts of all living entities. Tani, these three, yatva, knowing, vimuchyati, one becomes liberated. Translation. Vishnu has three forms called Purushas. The first, Mahavishnu, is the creator of the total material energy, Mahat. The second is Garbhodashayi, who is situated within each universe. And the third is Kirodakshayi, who lives in the heart of every living being. He who knows these three becomes liberated from the clutches of Maya. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse appears in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Purvakanda 33, where it has been quoted from the Sattvata Tantra. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Meritam Yena Tasme Shigurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nityānanda Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhakti Vedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasme Shigurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshatah Adadana Srinam Danter Idam Yache Punaha Punaha Srimadrupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amshu Bhagavatosmyaham Sadadasu Asmi Sarabata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Prishta Satakaromismam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityānanda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In October of 1972 in Vrindavan, India, at the Radha Damodar temple in Prabhupada's room, Prabhupada was having a conversation with his godbrother Oroville Kapoor, who was a very learned scholar of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy and a disciple of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Every time Prabhupada used to come to Vrindavan, Dr. Kapoor used to come see him. So what happened that one night is that Prabhupada, as part of the conversation, looked at all the devotees in the room, and he said, "Can anybody explain the meaning of the three Vishnus?" And one devotee, Subal Swami, he started to speak, and he explained very nicely, systematically, the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. It was very scholarly, very systematic, and Prabhupada was very, very happy. And at the end, he smiled and he told Dr. Kapoor, "Just see how these Western devotees, they've learned the philosophy so nicely." Now, there's a very interesting description in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I believe it's in the Canto 1, Chapter 3 or Chapter 4, text number 1. Let me just find it, which has a very similar description of the three Vishnus. Yes, it's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, text number 1. Sutta uvacha jagrihe purusham rupam bhagavan mahadadivihi sambutam sudasakalam adoloka sisrikshaya. Sutta said, "In the beginning of the creation, the Lord first of all expended himself in the universal form of Purusha incarnation, primarily with all the ingredients of material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose, in the original book, it says, this was on the intention of creating the material universe." What's amazing about this is when we look at this purport, there's a very systematic description of the entire process of all the different stages of the creation and how everything is done. Prabhupada explains, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, that the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, maintains this material universes by extending his part of plenary expansion. So this Purusha form is the confirmation of the same principle. The original personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, or Lord Krishna, who is famous as the son of King Vasudeva or King Nanda, the very same personality of Godhead is full with all opulences, all potencies, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Part of his opulences are manifested as impersonal Brahman, and part of his opulences are manifested as Paramatma. This Purusha feature of the same personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the original Paramatma manifestation of the Lord. There are three Purusha features in the material creation, and this form, who is known as Karanodakashaya Vishnu, is the first of the three. The other two are known as the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and the Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, which we shall know one after the other. The innumerable universes are generated from the skin holes of this Karanodakashaya Vishnu, and in each one of the universes, the Lord enters as the Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. So this is very significant how Srila Prabhupada explains in detail all various stages of creation, because we do know that for thousands of years, different philosophers, religionists, and various thinkers have speculated upon how this material world is created. We know that currently material scientists has various theories, none of whom can explain this like His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada can explain. And the difference is because Srila Prabhupada is explaining things from the perspective of the disciplic succession, the bona fide authorized disciplic succession. All of this knowledge is coming in parampara. Evam parampara praptam. This is the transcendental benefit of hearing the message from one who is perfectly situated in the parampara or the disciplic succession. And being a follower or student or devotee or even a sympathizer or disciple of Srila Prabhupada means to present things just like Prabhupada did. Of course, it doesn't mean to be a parrot or a mindless repeating without understanding. But we have to learn from Srila Prabhupada how he explained things. The Bhagavad Gita gives various statements by Lord Krishna how the material energy is created by him. There are various statements in this connection. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Everything, material and spiritual, is coming from him. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is explaining in further detail. And we look at Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's even in more detail. When we look at this particular chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj is breaking down in so many detailed explanations how this material creation is ultimately coming from Krishna through Lord Balarama, Mahasamkarshana, the four Chaturvyuha, and then everything is coming from this particular sequence, and how these material universes are created, how this universe comes about. Now, when we look at Srimad Bhagavatam in the third canto, the second and third chapter, there are various places in the Bhagavatam itself where it goes into a lot of detail, how the living beings are created, how the planets are created, how humanity came about from Manu and Shatarupa. All of these things are detailed in the Bhagavatam. It is not complicated to understand. All it takes is submissive oral reception. Of course, the material scientists want to verify everything through their senses or their instruments. But some of these cannot be verified by our limited senses. They have to be accepted on the authority of the great acharyas. It's called Purva Acharyas, previous predecessors, spiritual preceptors, who teach this transcendental science. And that is why Srila Prabhupada several times explained, well, don't just say Jai Guru Maharaj or Jai Prabhupada, but learn this philosophy and explain it to people. And this is what the PDA, the Prabhupada Disciples Association, and the Hare Krishna Society is trying to do, explain Prabhupada's teachings in a systematic, easy to understand, proper way based upon Prabhupada's original, non-adulterated teachings. Because what we see nowadays, there's many people claiming to represent Prabhupada, to teach what Prabhupada taught, but when we go a little deeper and start asking questions about how and why they have changed Prabhupada's original teachings and Prabhupada's books, then the conversation hits a roadblock. Because they think that they have the authority to change everything Prabhupada has done based on some idea that some editor was giving the authority by Prabhupada to edit his books. But Prabhupada never gave the authority to any disciple to change his teachings. When people start to change the Bhagavad Gita, this very important verse where Prabhupada translates it that he has seen the truth, and they change it to they have seen the truth, it becomes a political issue. We don't need any political interpretation of Prabhupada's teachings or Prabhupada's books. The books are pretty clear. The teachings are pretty clear. But when people are motivated by a desire for self-aggrandizement or self-promotion, then the nonsense starts. Then we see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita itself what Prabhupada wrote in the introduction, and this is very important, and we're going to discuss it again. This is the Adi Lila on page 17 of the original non-adulterated 1974 version, where Prabhupada described the direct disciple of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who accepted Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti as his servitor. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur accepted Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, who initiated Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who in turn initiated Srila Gorkishore Das Babaji, the spiritual master of Om Vishnupad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja, the divine master of our humble self. Why did the editors change this particular purport? Why did they edit? Why did they change the sentence where Prabhupada stated, who accepted Srila Jagannath Babaji, who initiated Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur? Again, we are dealing with the real, this is not a philosophical issue. It becomes a political issue for maintaining their monopoly. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was officially initiated by another person named Bipin Bihari Goswami. Now, it's important to understand, Prabhupada chose the words initiated Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that Jagannath Das Babaji initiated Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How did he initiate him? Obviously, Prabhupada is referring to the transmission of transcendental knowledge. Now, the editors changed that. They wanted to try to prove that this particular sentence in the Chaitanya Charitamrita should be changed because it did not correspond to their understanding of the meaning of initiation in ISKCON. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, your understanding is defective. The only understanding we have is from the bona fide Acharya. That is the only understanding. And in the case of our movement, that is Srila Prabhupada. That is not complicated to understand. It is not difficult to understand or accept. It only becomes difficult when there is personal motivation for profit, adoration, and distinction. That is not complicated. If there's no personal desire for self-aggrandizement or becoming popular, what is the difficulty of accepting what Srila Prabhupada is saying here? And what did they do when they republished the Chaitanya Charitamrita? They changed it. So many things have been changed because it did not fit into their political ambition and their desire for monopoly. People should be aware of this. We've discussed this several times with various purports in the Chaitanya Charitamrita himself, that one of the pitfalls and deviations from devotional service is to associate oneself with a class of people who are claiming monopoly on spiritual advancement, which is exactly what we have when they changed that particular verse, that particular statement of Srila Prabhupada. Why change it? Prabhupada's statements are clear. Tomorrow morning, wherever you are, whether it's in the East Coast or Russia or Canada or Hamilton, Ontario, you're not going to need a flashlight or a torchlight to see where the sun is. The sun is going to come. It's going to be self-effulgent. It's not difficult. Everybody will see. You don't need a flashlight. We don't need any nonsensical explanation or concocted interpretation to understand Prabhupada's teachings. It is clear. It is easy to understand. That is why a lot of time when investigators and detectives interview a suspect or a person of interest, the best thing they can do is to get the person to confess to what they have done, rather than so many different interpretations and things like that. If they can get the person to confess, that is the strongest evidence. So we don't need people to interpret Prabhupada's teachings to fit their personal political ambitions. Nobody needs that. Just like nobody needs to come out tomorrow morning in Hamilton, Ontario on St. Clair Avenue and say, oh, where is the sun? Is the sun here? No, it's going to show up. It's going to show up. Very easy to understand. Not complicated, not difficult. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All glories to his divine grace, the self-effulgent Acharya.
Let's see, what have we got here? Who put this up? Maybe they could read it. Is it?
Prabhuji, I did it.
Yeah,
Prabhuji,
maybe
I
you
did
could
it.
read it. Please.
This is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 34 to 38. This is the lecture where Prabhupada is talking about this 434 Tadviti Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya
Okay.
Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshinaha. So here, as Prabhuji was talking, Yashanandan Prabhuji, that for knowledge we have to go to the right person, Tattvadarshi. Tattvadarshi means one who has actually seen or experienced the absolute truth. So unless we find out such a person who has actually seen the absolute truth or who has in his experience what is absolute truth, so there is very little chance of our spiritual advancement. So if we can find out such a person who is experienced in the absolute truth, and if we follow the principles as stated here, pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Pranipata means to surrender, and pariprashnena means to inquire, and sevaya means service. Three things. You should find out a person who is self-realized, who has experience in the absolute truth, and on your part, you have to surrender there, and you have to inquire, and you have to render service. When these things are completed, there is no doubt about one's spiritual salvation. So if we actually found out a person who is self-realized and we have surrendered there honestly with inquiry and service, then we must know that our spiritual salvation is guaranteed. Guaranteed, there is no doubt. So Lord Krishna says, Yat jnatva na punarmoham evam yashyasi pandava yena bhutani asheshani rakshayi atmana athomayi. People are anxious to see God. Here, Lord Sri Krishna says that as soon as one gets the knowledge from the right person, then he never comes into the field of delusion. The whole thing is that at the present stage of our life, we are conditioned and deluded. We do not know things as they are. That is the cause of all our miseries. So it is very interesting as what Yashanandan Prabhu was talking about is if we don't surrender to the correct person, the Tattva Darshina, how can we get to this spiritual realization? And my question is also coming up to that when they say that they're moving from he has seen the truth to they have seen the truth. Prabhupada in his explanation in the whole lecture says a person, the Tattva Darshina, one person. You don't need several. There may be several, but you don't need several. You need only one Tattva Darshina to show you or guarantee you to the spiritual salvation.
Excellent. Yes, I wanted to further elaborate on this point of service to the spiritual master. When it's authorized, then it is the highest position for the conditioned soul. In other words, there are different relationships. You know, you can think about the different rasas, Nilesh, in terms of the nectar of devotion, neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental humor, and conjugal love. Okay, and we're reading about them. They're very exalted levels of spiritual life. But one should be careful not to become a sahajya. We always have to guard ourselves against pretending. In our own mind, we have a tendency to concoct or speculate on things. But Krishna consciousness is very simple. And I've told this story before. And it's carried me on in my life for 55 years. Because I was initiated in 1971 in Detroit, Michigan. And it was a grand ceremony on Jefferson Avenue, which was a house before the Fisher Mansion, before we got that. And so many devotees were there. The room was packed. And I was not really knowledgeable at all in our philosophy, but I somehow or other dragged into this process by my peers and Krishna's blessing, let's say. So I get up, I'm in the room, I was packed in, we were all crowded in, Nilesh. You could barely have a space to sit. We broke all the fire regulations for sure. And And we had a fire sacrifice in the middle of the room as well. So it was like dangerous. Of course, Prabhupada sat at the front. There was the Jagannath deities. That's what were in the temple room. And then Prabhupada sat up on the front in a Vyasasana. And he called us, he was calling everybody's name up. He called Rochan. Rochan was a god brother of mine. We got initiated together. And other devotees from that period, what was his name now? The fellow in, I can't remember the names. But at any rate, Indranumna was there and other devotees. And then they called out my name, Vishvakarma Das. Now, I didn't know what the name Vishvakarma meant. I didn't even have a clue. So I thought, well, whatever that means. But Prabhupada looked at me when I came up. He asked me for the 4 regulative principles. And I told him 2. And he said, oh, that's enough. I told him no intoxication, no illicit sex life. He goes, okay, that's all. And then the people roared, oh, Vishvakarma Das. I thought, big deal. And Prabhupada looked at me and he said, but you should never think that you're the chief engineer, but the servant of the chief engineer. In this way, you'll become great. So what is the greatest position that we can have in this journey of spiritual discipline? The highest position is to see yourself as a servant of Srila Prabhupada. Is there anything more exalted than that? If you take into consideration who Prabhupada was, recently I've been getting people sending me things on Christianity. And I'm reading some of the posts and information that they're sharing with me. And it's very positive. All these parables and philosophical points that Jesus made. But it is anywhere near the depth of understanding of spiritual life that Srila Prabhupada has gifted us compared to Jesus Christ. Not a comparison. There's a very, very high level. The highest level of spiritual life has been presented to us by Srila Prabhupada in his books. And we have Brahma Samhita, we have Nectar of Devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam, those are proof. And then you listen to the lectures that Srila Prabhupada gives. You know, this week I had a chance to hear some lectures of Prabhupada. And I was saying to myself, gee, I wish I could speak the way Prabhupada speaks. I wish I had that talent or that ability. Of course, all we can do is simply repeat what we've heard from Srila Prabhupada. But his depth of understanding, his depth of spiritual realization is unsurpassed by anybody you've ever met or hope to meet in millions of years. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? We do. And not only do we believe it, we're acting on it. The most important thing is to be the servant of Srila Prabhupada, and that is the highest position you can achieve in the human form of life, to serve the pure devotee. And so many people have put him at the back of the class. It's ridiculous, absurd. Like I said at the beginning of the program, they put these ministers in the government in America through more scrutiny than any of these people that are so-called claiming to be Diksha Guru in the disciplic line of succession from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's absurdity. And it's obvious to all of us. Obvious. Yet, we have to come together and work cooperatively. There is a mission here, a very important mission, that we as a group must come together to fulfill. The protection of Prabhupada's legacy. Let me give you an example, and you all are familiar with it. So you take one stick of bamboo and you can easily break it. It's not hard, it's weak. But when you take 5 sticks of bamboo and you bind them together, it becomes a weapon. So this group, our group, the Prabhupada Disciples Association, the membership here, if we join together in a unified fashion and sacrifice everything for this mission to protect Prabhupada's legacy, this will be the highest reward that you can achieve in the human form of life. The highest reward. No, someone could say, you're speaking with such conviction. You're speaking with such intensity. Someone could say that. Well, we're not speaking by mental concoction and mental speculation. We're speaking on the authority of Shastra and our understanding of Prabhupada's position in this disciplic succession, in this current time and place. Yes, the spiritual life is real while you're still here, and your opportunity to serve this mission is still there, very much and dynamically available. And it's our hope that as time goes on, we're carrying on step by step, that we all become inspired to work together to preserve the legacy of Srila Prabhupada in his original books and his teachings and repeat them. Don't concoct them. We're seeing all of these new people coming on board. Nilesh, it's unbelievable the garbage mouth that these people have. It is incredible that they're carrying on at this level and concocting everything. For what reason? Like, for example, think about this. And I'll wind up. They use Prabhupada's books to justify who they are. So they distribute a Gita. The Gitas, the yellow Gitas have been changed. They distribute them, and the verses have been changed, thousands of edits, all to justify what they're doing. People that are sincere are looking for it. Truth, and they get these books, they think, oh, this is fantastic, because they learn modes of nature, reincarnation, transmigration of the soul, the different aspects of God in his different forms, his personal form. It's all there, but it's been tainted by their changes. So they're using Prabhupada as a leverage to make disciples for themselves. And we're planning to release some information in the future, we're working on it now, that will establish that Srila Prabhupada is giving the information as Diksha, Siksha Guru for all mankind for the future. And there's none of this fraudulent business of using Prabhupada as a leverage, Mother Ruchisa, as a leverage to gain disciples for themselves. This is insidious. Yashodanandana, Prabhu, if you could further elaborate.
Very important points which are being raised. One thing that's been brought up to my attention at different times, and even recently as well, is how will the Krishna consciousness movement spread all over the world with all the divisions amongst the devotees? And my first reply was based about those who are truly serious about following Prabhupada and his teachings, about following Gaudiya Vaishnavism as preached and demonstrated and practiced by Srila Prabhupada. For those who are serious, there's no problem. For those who are personally motivated with various side distractions, then there's a major problem. And there's a very interesting conversation that somebody sent me recently. This is a Prabhupada room conversation in Vrindavan, India on September 26, 1976. Vrindavan, India, September 26, 1976. Srila Prabhupada. I was living with servant and 2 sons, so I helped to start the break in the conversation. From my friends, I collected some money. So other important members said, why Abhay Babu is living separately? He should be the president of the Bombay. I never said, but they said, I was living separately. Then Prabhupada requested, pleaded in my behalf so many things. He said 3 words, it is better that he is living outside your company. He will do when time will come. He'll do himself everything. You haven't got to recommend him. These very words break. Krishna require any president or any GBC. He's giving chance to everyone, that's all. Otherwise, listen to this now, otherwise thousands of presidents and thousands of GBCs may come and go. His work will go on. Krishna is complete himself. He doesn't require anyone's help. That is Krishna. Sehetu prachar. One who has got life, he can preach. One is dead, what he can do, he used to say. So the point is that too many people seem to have a corporate idea of the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Now, we don't want to disparage anybody. We don't want to falsely criticize anybody. But the point should be understood that the practice of Krishna consciousness and the preaching of Krishna consciousness does not depend upon any institutional or corporate arrangement. That has been predicted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It will happen, whether or not the GBC or the presidents, this and that. It will happen. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yes, absolutely. The truth will set you free. And the presentation of the truth by all of us will set many millions of people free in the future. You know, we have one of our godbrothers here, and we'll go to the discussion with our panel, of course. We have a godbrother who I've known since 1975, and I was very proud of him back then. When I met Prabhupada in Toronto, his name is Graham Swig, or Garuda Prabhu. And at the time, he was studying religious philosophy, Vaishnavism, in Chicago at the university there. And he has been a long-time supporter of our process of not changing anything for any personal motivation. And I'd like to have him come forward because he is a friend of mine and a treasured friend of mine, and he could articulate from his position as a professor in the colleges. He teaches the philosophies there. His practical understanding of this philosophy and how it should not ever be changed. Hare Krishna. Garuda, please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vishwakarmaji. Your sweet and generous words went right to my heart. And Yashodanandanaji's words earlier, mentioning the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 34. Prabhupada was very, very deliberate. He was brilliant. He was a miracle man. By anyone's estimation, even if you're not a devotee, just his accomplishments. I've written a book introducing Prabhupada, and just facts about Prabhupada, which would stun anyone. It would just stun anyone. Just as an historian, just recounting Prabhupada's accomplishments were just astonishing. But one thing I just put in the chat here is that the editors, they got cocky when Prabhupada left. They figured, let us make Prabhupada better. Prabhupada needs us to make him better. So they put out the revised and enlarged, and Jayadvaita wrote in the note in the back that now there's this second edition is a more enriched and more complete edition than what we had before. Well, that is some kind of claim. Now, in their cockiness, they learned a little bit of Sanskrit. And it is true. Upadekshanti te jnanam. Yeah, they will instruct you. It is true that in the Sanskrit, it is third person plural. Prabhupada translated as third person singular. And so they figured, oh dear, Prabhupada was wrong. But no, he was right. They did not know, they were untrained. They did not understand the use of synecdoche. Synecdoche is when a plural word is used to mean a singular, or a singular is used to include a plural. They did not understand this kind of technique in language and in translation. So again, to try to make Prabhupada better, to improve upon Prabhupada for Prabhupada, is an absurdity. It is absolutely absurd. To treasure what he has given us is all we need to do. Look, this is just rational thinking. Vishwakarmaji, if you give me a gift, I will receive it graciously. I mean, just a simple gift. I won't say, no, Vishwakarma, this is not exactly what I wanted. I help you improve your gift to me. It's a gift. Receive it as a gift. Prabhupada's teachings are a gift. And then on top of that, to try to correct Prabhupada, to try to improve Prabhupada is so absolutely, well, it's offensive. I mean, it really is. It's absurd. And it, honestly, it's embarrassing for those who try to do that. It's a confession of their lack of love and faith in Prabhupada's teachings. Hare Krishna.
This is a fact. It is embarrassing. And I wanted to say, just before we move into the discussion further, and I wanted Yashoda to comment, spiritual life is based on realization, not anything else but that. And that is also based on surrender. Now, surrender is different. The idea of total sacrifice. 100, for example, Lord Chaitanya, he was the Supreme Lord himself, and he had no interest in any followers. He had no money. He didn't have a wardrobe. That's the highest example of Krishna consciousness, is Lord Chaitanya himself. He's setting the example for Garuda, for Vishwakarma, for Yashoda, for Nityānanda, and all of our members here. He's trying to teach us how to be a devotee by his own example. That's how you make advancement. Sacrifice. You have to sacrifice everything. Everything that you have. What is sacrifice? Well, you can make the list up and decide what you're going to sacrifice. That's your business. It's an individual commitment. But Krishna says it. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So as much as you surrender everything, you get fully compensated by the mercy of the Lord, and you become blissful, like we're reading Nectar of Devotion right now. I'm not very surrendered, I know that. All I can hope is that we can serve the pure devotee in his mission to teach others how to become Krishna conscious and go back home, back to Godhead. That's our job. Yashodanandana Prabhu, if you could further explain.
Well, my point is, which I've repeated many times, the traditional Vaishnava Sampradayas, especially the oldest one, Leme, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya and the Madhva Sampradaya, there's no record anywhere where an Acharya is going to go change the words of a predecessor Acharya. Now, there is record of Acharyas making notes or comments called a tika, or a further bhashya upon the previous commentary of a great Acharya. The Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya as the original commentary on Vedanta Sutra by Ramanujacharya himself. And then there was another great Acharya after him who wrote a commentary on Ramanuja's commentary. This is allowed. This is standard Vaishnava practice. But we never find a Vaishnava Acharya changing the actual words of a previous Acharya. Now, if the argument is presented, well, these literatures were all in Sanskrit or Bengali or Tamil or whatever, and we're dealing with English, that may be. Prabhupada authorized a specific editor in the beginning, Hayagriva. He personally trained him. He personally taught him what he wanted, both for the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first few cantos. But what happened after that? During Prabhupada's manifested presence, some of these subsequent editors started to change Prabhupada's words while he was living. And we found out about this in June of 1977 during the Rascal Editors Conversation. Now, the problem with that is what's going to happen in 30, 40, 50, 70 years from now when all of us on this panel here will be gone? Where's the control of this? In other words, the sanctity and integrity of Prabhupada's teachings is very important, because the buildings may go, organizations may go, organizations may change, but the teachings have to be preserved. And when the teachings are being changed under the plea or the veneer of following Prabhupada and according to time, place, and circumstances, that they had to adjust the language to be more popular with the scholars and public. Hey, that does not fly. That does not fly. No one has the authority. No disciple or follower of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, has the authority to change his words. Once these books were published, the first edition, they should not be changed. That's why Prabhupada in 1977, when he found out his books were being changed, he says, the next printing should be again the original way. But they don't comprehend this. Now, I'll admit, English is not my first language, but I've worked for different law firms, legal department for over 30 years, and that sentence from Srila Prabhupada seems to be reasonably clear. Now, I'm sure people who are more scholarly than me and have better understanding of the English grammar can also understand the term original way meant by Prabhupada, the first edition. He didn't want these purports to be constantly revised and changed. So it's, it's not complicated, but it's a very, very important point that we keep repeating and explaining in many different ways. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Well, it's the essence of how to receive transcendental knowledge. It's a descending process from the spiritual plane through the pure devotee who's totally surrendered, and Krishna takes over. Prabhupada is an avatar, Shaktivesh avatar. He's not an ordinary person. These people are students. They're disciples. They're not avatars. Hey, Garuda, you get a student, comes in your PhD class, he sits there and goes, I'm smarter than you, I'm a PhD, you're not smart. Well, what qualifies you? Well, I think I am. Oh, okay. You know what you do to that person? There's the door, get out. Go. You don't need me and I don't need you, get out. This is the same business that these people are in, Jayadvaita, get out. Ram Raghava, you got your hand, and then we'll go to Neela Sharma.
Yes, I just wanted to make a brief comment. I appreciate Garuda Prabhu's explanation of that. And actually, I learned a new word today. I knew about that concept of the grammatical explanation, but I didn't know it was called synecdoche. And I'm going to attend a gathering of devotees this Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon for kirtan and a program. So I'm going to share that with everybody, especially because it's important for that verse 434. So thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I had somebody approach me about this meaning, Ruda, from the Gaudiya Math in a conversation. Well, for me, it's the war. I'm on the internet. It's a war against people's different opinions and interpretations of our philosophy. And they brought up that point, but I knew already the answer. He was saying, well, it means they as well as he. No, it's exactly he. You changed it. And you want to make a compromise because you have a motive. And you can say whatever you want. I learned that verse, so did you. We all learned that. I remember seeing it after the new publications come on. What? Wasn't it he had seen the truth? Because we had memorized it. And I didn't really connect the dots until I met my godbrother Yashoda, who really pointed it out to me. And I thought, okay, this is obviously a fraud. Neela Shama Prabhu, please, in Miami.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
I would like to share some thoughts over here about what was just discussed.
Yes.
I would like to first take you to Srimad Bhagavatam,
Okay.
Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 1, where Narad Muni is asking Lord Brahma about this transcendental knowledge. I'm just going to repeat the translation, but the purport is very important.
Yes.
Sri Narad Muni asked Brahmaji, O chief amongst the demigods, O firstborn living entity, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Pranipatena. Please tell me that transcendental knowledge which specifically directs one to the truth of the individual soul and the super soul. Now look at Prabhupada's purport over here. The perfection of Parampara system or the path of disciplic succession is further confirmed. In the previous chapter, it has been established that Brahmaji, the firstborn living entity, received knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord, and the same knowledge was imparted to Narada, the next disciple. Same knowledge. Narada asked to receive the knowledge, and Brahmaji imparted it upon being asked. Therefore, asking for transcendental knowledge from the right person and receiving it properly is the regulation of the disciplic succession. So the moment we change any of these books, what happens to the disciplic succession? It is discontinued. It has nothing to do with the physical lineage or the physical place. We may have the same temples, the same managers, but if they change the books, this disciplic succession stops. This process is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita. The inquisitive students must approach a qualified spiritual master to receive transcendental knowledge by surrender, submissive inquiries, and service. Knowledge received by submissive inquiries and service is more effective than knowledge received in exchange for money. This is so very critical for us to understand. Knowledge received by submissive inquiries and service is more effective than knowledge received in exchange for money. A spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from Brahma, Narada, has no demand for dollars and cents. The bona fide student has to satisfy him by sincere service to obtain knowledge of the relation and nature of the individual soul and super soul. So if I change Srila Prabhupada's books, am I serving Srila Prabhupada? And if I'm not serving Srila Prabhupada, then how can I get this transcendental knowledge? This is my query. And I would like to share another thing over here, is that we keep talking about, and here Prabhupada talks about scholars and scholastic parts. This is a room conversation with Professor Francois Chenique in August 5, 1976. Here,
Uh-huh.
Prabhupada is talking about, so one of us who knows French nicely, he can do that. But there is no difference. They are taking the ideas from English and translating. He says, Professor Shinik wishes to know, would it not be more valuable if our men spoke Sanskrit and would translate directly from Sanskrit into French? Prabhupada, there is no much difference. Sanskrit is there and the Sanskrit translation is there. Where is the difference? We are giving the Sanskrit and then word to word translation. Bhugarbha. He says that when one translates from Sanskrit into English and from English into French, that is not exactly the same thing in French that it was in Sanskrit, he feels. No, Prabhupada. If from Sanskrit to French can be translated, I have no objection. But we have no such arrangement. We have no Sanskrit scholars in French yet. No, Prabhupada, not only scholar, he must be a realized soul.
Yes.
Simply scholars will not help. Simply scholarship will not help. There are many Sanskrit scholars in India. There are many Sanskrit scholars, original Sanskrit scholars in India. They cannot understand Bhagavata. So the idea is to stick to Prabhupada. Why? Because again, it comes down to the same, the same shloka from Bhagavad Gita, where we have come across this so many times, which is chapter 7, verse 8. Ratoham apsu kaunteya prabhasmi shati suryoya pranava sarva vedeshu shabda ke paurusham noshu. Where Krishna says, I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Prabhupada was great is because Krishna has blessed him. The mercy of Krishna is flowing through him through the disciplic succession, and that is what makes him great. Does he claim that greatness? No. What does he say? I am a nimitta matrani. I am nothing but a conduit of Krishna. So
Yeah.
if we want to be a conduit of Srila Prabhupada, we need to stick to this part, whether it is scholastic or non-scholastic. If you were to agree with this part, then you will understand the true purpose of these shlokas. I would love to know what Yashodanand Prabhu has to say.
Yeah, I want to bring him into this. I wanted Yashodanandana Prabhu. Can you see the comment in the chat by Vamsi Priya Dasa? And thank you for your compliment, Prabhu, for appreciating our programs. Can you possibly read that out and make a comment, Yashodanandana? Can you see
I'm trying to
it?
find the comment here.
Gargamuni
Vamsi
Prabhu.
Priya.
Yeah.
Gargamuni Prabhu told me that Prabhupada was also not satisfied with the Harigrava's editing. He approved it because he wanted the book out as soon as possible. If there's good English, it is welcome, but we should not edit as Harigrava has replaced devotional service with knowledge of the self. Knowledge is definitely not complete. Well, the bottom line here is that when Hamsuduta was appointed as a BVT trustee, before Hamsuduta died, I had numerous conversations with him about many of his personal discussions with Srila Prabhupada about why Prabhupada chose him as a BBT trustee. Hamsuduta never underwent a formal university education. He came to this country after the war in Germany. He was not a technical scholar. And when he asked Prabhupada, why did you choose me as a BBT trustee? Well, when you have so many disciples who are much more educated, much more accomplished, both in education and training and everything. And Prabhupada told him, because you've understood the importance of printing and distributing my books. One of the conversations Prabhupada had with Hamsuduta was about Hayagriva. Because according to Govinda Dasi, who was physically there as one of Prabhupada's servants in Hawaii and in San Francisco in 1967, 68, 69, she personally testified that Prabhupada directed Hamsuduta's editing of the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. It is not that Hamsuduta went on some kind of tangent by himself to do everything individually. No, that is not what happened. Hamsudata's editing was supervised by Prabhupada and approved by Prabhupada.
I agree.
Now, Hayagriva, not Hamsadutta, Hayagriva's editing. So that's important to understand. Now, our good friend Gargamuni is entitled to his opinion and to his idea. That's fine. But as far as we know, Prabhupada approved of Hayagriva's editing. Now, the problem we have is subsequent editors who came in, many of whom started editing after Hayagriva left his duties after 1972. They started to change the editing of Hamsadutta for political reasons. And one of these foremost examples is the Ishopanishad. The original Ishopanishad was printed in 1969. And by 1977, there were 3 different editions of Sri Ishopanishad. And why do we know this? Because we were studying the book in the Gurukul with some of the older students, like Rupanuga's son, Ekendra, Dwarkadish, and some of the other students. And some of them pointed out to me, it says, Maharaj, this is not right. You're reading from this book here, and we have a book that has got a different translation, a different purport. So we found out there were 3 different editions. Who edited the original 1969 edition that Prabhupada approved? Who changed it? Prabhupada did not want his first edition books to be changed. That's why he said they cannot change anything. Now, I'm not a PhD in English grammar, but I think that some of you really understand it's a pretty simple instruction to follow. The next instruction in that conversation on the 22nd of June, 1977, when Prabhupada said the next printing again, when they would reprint the book in the future, should be the original way. Because what happens if you change it once, what's to stop it from changing again? In 1999, there was a meeting in Los Angeles with different Ritvik devotees, for the lack of a better word, and Hamsadutta happened to meet Jayadvaita. Hamsadutta confronted him, says, and now you've changed. What is to prevent somebody 50, 70 years, or 100 years from now to change it again? Because as we know, the English language has evolved over the years. English originally came from French. French came from Latin. Latin came from Sanskrit originally. So, just like right now, so many new words in the English language have come on account of these modern communication devices. Some of these words were not there 7,500 years ago. So the problem we have is that once it is changed, there is a precedent, it's going to be changed again. That's why Prabhupada did not want all these changes. The great acharyas in the Vaishnava Sampradaya never, ever, ever changed the words of a predecessor acharya. This idea, this false idea that they have, oh, Prabhupada liked the editing. Well, the whole story was not complete in 1977, as we found out by 1983, when they introduced like 4,000 or 5,000 changes from the original 1972 Bhagavad Gita. So we should not be fooled with this idea that people can change again and again and again. That's not right. As far as Gargamuni, well, Gargamuni is entitled to his views. We respect his dedication to Srila Prabhupada. That's nice. But the whole historical record, as testified by Govinda Dasi and Hamsadutta, is different than what we're being told here. Now, I understand that in the Bhagavad Gita, that the 1970 Bhagavad Gita, some people find fault with the planets of the trees. Okay, that's a typing mistake. That's not, or when the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Prabhupada described the duties of a Vaishya, the word cattle raising was there, and Prabhupada, there's a documented conversation, Prabhupada, that should be changed to cow protection. Also something in the 13th chapter about the knowledge of the self or knower of the self. There's a documented conversation. Prabhupada said there is very few examples, documented evidence that Prabhupada wanted things to be changed. Very few. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, and it's a very good point, Prabhu, and that you brought up, and thank you very much. I think in law, a lot of times the intent of the person determines their guilt. If the intent is to, if it's not intentionally changed for personal motive, but just out of ignorance or immaturity or whatever, then that's different than changing it for personal ambition, which is the case of people in the mission who are trying to put themselves up on the ladder of success based on their so-called understanding of the philosophy from their small-minded state of existence. We're going to end up the program. We've got our friend Puranjana Prabhu. We're going to ask him to share a few comments before we move forward with the end of the chant. Puranjana Prabhu in California.
Hi, Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. Thank you.
Right. Well, I had an interesting call from, excuse me, a very prominent writer. He writes for political blogs and magazines and stuff like that. He told me not to give his name right away, but he asked me a whole bunch of questions about Tulsi Gabbard and ISKCON and the whole situation. He said he reads my blog all the time. So I don't know. There's people who say, oh, nobody reads that blog. Well, evidently somebody does. Very oddly, a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a church somewhere in Kansas that has links to my blogs and has something in there. They have like a little Sunday school thing that they send out to their, it's a newsletter. It's an online newsletter, and they send links to articles that I've written. They find it intriguing that all this stuff is going on, probably because there's parallels in their own religion. That's probably what it is. They probably see similar kinds of things. But the other thing is, I don't know if anybody's noticed, I've been publishing sometimes one, two on a regular basis, people just saying they finally realized Prabhupada is their guru. It's just amazing, And I just posted one where this devotee was in the temple and they were looking at the deities, and they felt like some Shakti came through them, and they just had the realization, the understanding Prabhupada is their Acharya, and that's it. So I think this is another thing that's happening. It's our preaching is direct, but it's also having a subtle effect. That, one person told me he's been trying to ignore my stuff for like 5-6 years. Finally, he knew my writing, but he was at the temple all the time, and they were always telling him, "Oh, don't get involved with all that." But same thing. He just one day he went into the temple, he saw Prabhupada's Murti, and he just said, "That's it. This is my guru." Prabhupada. So we are making progress on, kind of a brick by brick basis. It's not like a sudden, one big waterfall all of a sudden flowing. It's just going to be, little bit by bit here and there, but it is for sure definite progress. And then those people will preach to other people. And so I feel very positive about, the overall situation. We're getting more positive feedback, and simultaneously more of the victims are coming forward. That's another thing that's happening. And those people are giving very heavy testimony about what happened to them with all these gurus. And that is putting a big crimp in the guru program overall, because they just can't deny what's happening to these children who were, mistreated when they were children, are now adults. And they're just, they're coming out more and more. So that's really helping our cause, because it's just discrediting their whole so-called guru lineage, or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, we should never be discouraged. We are making progress, and I'm seeing it more and more all the time.
Yes, Prabhu, and thank you very much for your efforts in running the blog. We also, for all of you, your information, if you're on Facebook, we have the PDA group page, and we post there. And just so you know, Puranjana Prabhu, we get over 1 million views a year. 1 million. Just this week, I posted 2 items, a quote from Prabhupada and that was quoted by Gargamuni, and another quote from Prabhupada. And I made a few comments, and on 2 quotes, I have 8,000 views in the last 4 days. And we have other people that post on it, and Yashodanandana and Vijaya Pandit and a group of Rupa Goswami like that. And we get they post all beautiful things about Prabhupada and Prabhupada's position as the manifestation of Lord Chaitanya in the modern age. And so people are getting the information. We are getting the information out, no question. And we're using technology. That's one of our plans, is to expand our technology position in the internet and expose the truth and the fallacy of these other groups, whatever group it is, and their deviations and mistakes to harm people that are serious about spiritual life. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, this Mataji in Venezuela, I believe you are. Good to see you on the program, and good to see Krishna Kata and Michael Dillon and Vamsi Priya. And then we have the Forest people. I don't know who they are. They introduced themselves. The Forest Temple. But anyway, keep spreading the truth. We're very ecstatic here with the seeing the results. And we'll be back on Saturday morning with Bhagavad Gita as it is, reading and discussions, and delve further into the philosophy. And Sunday, Srimad Bhagavatam from the original Delhi Bhagavatams, which we're looking forward to soon, very soon, be able to gift other people with. So lots going on. And we want to thank Ron Singh from Oroville, who's opened up a new center, for his hard work in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. So everybody is pushing on, and this is by the grace of Lord Nrsimhadev. Yes, because he is protecting all of us. Let's move forward with the chanting of Hare Krishna. 2 minutes and 54 seconds, Mr. Ram Raghava, and chant along, everybody, and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnava devotees. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. Thanks everybody for participating in this lively reading and discussion. Our good friend Vishwakarma Prabhu for hosting the program. Ram Raghava in Georgia, USA for also helping with the production of the program. Our good friend Rupa Goswami Prabhu in Bombay, India. Neil Sharma Prabhu in Florida, out of Miami or Fort Lauderdale, wherever you are. And Krishna Kata Prabhu in San Diego, California. We need those Bhagavatams behind your head next program, Prabhu. And everybody participating, we appreciate your comments and your participators. Please join us on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time, corresponding to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, or wherever you are in the world. Welcome, everyone. Again, all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,